Hello there, and welcome to What's the Point? A question we should all be asking ourselves, and the podcast by brand architect Bill Ellis that will help you discover, clarify, and live your purpose.
Welcome, everybody, to this week's episode of What's the Point with a very special guest today, a good friend and a very wise business advisor. Kathy Tagenel is with us this morning. Hi, Kathy.
Hi, Bill. It's such an honor to be with you. Thank you.
Oh, it's my pleasure. And it's everyone listening is going to get a lot of value from this. That much I know. But let me tell them a little bit about you to start. So Kathy is a business strategist and the president of her own company, Zoom Strategies. But she's also in charge of the strategy for the Gogiver, everything Gogiver. She is the chief operating officer of Bob Burg's Gogiver company. And she literally takes care of everything Gogiver. We'll talk a lot about that. But she has a fascinating lead up to how she got here. While her background is marketing and information technology, I want to talk to you a little bit about this because I understand you initially began to study to become a medical doctor.
Yes.
We'll talk a little bit about that. And you ended up getting a BS in electrical engineering from Northwestern. That's a school to hang on the resume. And as if that wasn't enough, you went on and got your MBA from the University of Chicago. Kathy's an adventurer, and we were just talking before we started recording that she's a mountain and lake type of person. So there's a lot to talk about with how she got from where she started to where she is today. And with that, I'll just say again, Kathy, welcome.
Thank you.
Let me start with what I find fascinating is that you started your studies to become a medical doctor. Share that with us.
Sure. When I was a senior in high school, that was when, I don't know how many people remember the first artificial heart, the Jarvik 7, was actually that transplant was done. And I remember writing a paper. I wanted to be a heart surgeon. I wanted to help fix people's hearts. So I went off to Northwestern for their biomedical engineering program. And partway through my freshman year, I got to spend the day observing surgeries. I got to see a liver transplant, brain surgery, and one other one. And it was during one of those surgeries, I remember I sort of stepped back because there was this loud rock music playing and the surgeons are talking about football. And I stepped back because it just felt weird to me. And then I saw the person's face because, normally you have a screen so you can't see the person's face. And I stepped back and something hit me. I couldn't even put it into words, but I'm like, this is not what I'll be doing with the rest of my life. And I went back and I took myself out of biomedical engineering and I thought, well, everything seems to be energy and run by electricity. So let's do electrical engineering.
Yeah.
So,
well, I think that's so interesting, and a few things in there that struck me. First of all, the fact that you were inspired by the heart transplant, that was quite the thing for those of us that were around to remember it. Some of our younger listeners won't key in on that, but I'm sure there's significant things in everyone's life. But to trigger that into that's what I want to do for a living is kind of the first step in us finding our purpose. I talk a lot on this show about purpose, and that's the purpose of the show is to help people discover and clarify. So that's what you did. You followed something that really pulled at your heartstrings and your interest. And then you realize it just wasn't you. And oftentimes, and this is what I want everyone listening to really take to heart. Oftentimes, the best way to find out where we want to go and what our purpose is by finding out what our purpose is not.
right.
So eliminating it. The other thing that really struck me was the rock music going and the surgeons talking about football. And what struck me, maybe for the first time ever, Kathy, is they're just in their work environment. So I mean, it's not like they weren't. That's what helped them focus, and it's just a crazy thought. So anyway, electrical engineering. Where'd you go with that?
Well, thank goodness for a really good friend who I like to joke that he was born with a radio in his crib. I was not. It did not come easily. to me, but I made it through. And I got very interested in computer networking. I really thought networks were going to be the future, connecting. Just always this theme for me has been we're all connected. And so I thought, wow, working in the field. So my first job was with IBM's information network, which doesn't exist anymore. But back then it was created to help bring together all the mainframe computers and get them started talking. Now with the internet, I'm dating myself, this was way before the internet. So it was, pre-internet days, trying to get these big computers to speak to one another. So that sort of started me off in the networking field, but in the more technical realm.
Yeah. But again, moving, unbeknownst to where you were going to ultimately end up, another nudge in your journey of where you were going to go. So you worked for several corporations, right? I mean, you worked for IBM and
IBM,
what other
Ameritech,
companies?
Ameritech. It was Illinois Bell when I first joined them. This was again years ago when Ma Bell had, AT&T had
Right.
broken up into all the baby bells. Illinois Bell was one of them. It ultimately formed together with a bunch of others in the Midwest to form Ameritech. So then while I was there, it became Ameritech. It was a great experience. I was part of their management development program. So I got to every year rotate to a new position. They put us through a boot camp where we spliced cables, got in manholes, climbed telephone poles. So we really got to understand the business. And then we, rotated around and then ended up being the director of the Advanced Data Services group within Ameritech as my last position.
Okay. Well, being so willing to jump into all of that hands-on cable work helps me better understand when you say that you're an adventurer and you're very willing and to boldly go where you haven't been before. I think is one of your quotes. We'll get to that in just a bit. So all of that big company work. And then you ended up, like many of us, leaving the corporate world and kind of going into a smaller business, maybe on your own. Tell us about that transition, please, Kathy.
Sure. My last position, I was with a company called Vario. It was an internet service provider. My former boss, one of my bosses at Ameritech, looked me up and found me and hired me away from, I was with a community college prior to that. Sorry, hopping around. So
No, it's fine.
I was in Kansas City, Missouri. I worked for the Metropolitan Community Colleges. I started their network services division group, managing all of their local area networks and desktop computers. And from there, I went to Vario, and I was the general manager for a business unit. It was a 7-state territory, providing internet services to those 7 states. It was my dream job. I loved it. My boss, the president, was up in Chicago, so it was like having my own little business. We were growing. We were absorbing smaller internet providers and getting to build the culture. It was really a fabulous and wonderful group. But then one day they came in and said I was going to have to lay people off. And that had been one of my commitments to my boss, was we would never lay people off, that we would manage the business, so we didn't. And so I talked to the big boss and I said, that's not the problem. It's not the people. It's, and I pointed out where the issues were in the budget, what have you. But that didn't matter. Things were really driven by the bottom line. And so I laid myself off. And that was when I decided to leave corporate America and go out on my own. And so I started my own business.
Well, again, it's just so interesting, and going all over the place, as you mentioned. That's part of the purpose of what I want to talk to you about, because it is a journey to find out what we want to be doing, and it's all part of your journey. But you discovered something about that's not uncommon in the corporate world. I'll just put it that way, and I won't single any company out, but when it gets to the point of everything being driven by bottom line and people become secondary, it's very easy to lose any real commitment to that type of environment for a lot of people. Some of us, like you, were able to lay yourself off, as you said, and others feel stuck in that environment and get to the point of being pretty miserable. So congrats on being able to realize that. Um, so you moved on, and we don't need to talk about every step along the way, but I know that one of the things that you did early was you became certified in Kolbe, which is an assessment, right?
Mhm.
Kolbe, Kolbe. Did you get into that soon after you left, or how did you jump into that? Because I think that plays a big role in how you work today.
Thank you. It did. I went out on my own for a couple years, and at one point I got married and moved to Albuquerque, and I was starting over, and I decided I had years ago, I had become a certified massage therapist. I was running training for marathons. And so I thought, oh, getting regular massages was
Mhm.
critical to staying in shape.
Yeah.
And I was in a high tech stress job. I'll go back at night. So I became a certified massage therapist. I just did it on the side. It was a great counterbalance to my high tech, high stress world. But then when I got married and moved, I thought, oh, let me try this for a living. And I did. So I was trying to be a massage therapist full time. And while I loved it, I loved helping my clients feel better. There was this internal strain going on that I couldn't understand. I'm like, why am I so stressed out? And not physically, but there was something mental going on. I, for a little bit, thought I might be crazy. But it was during that time I was reading some Robert Kiyosaki books. And in there, he talked about the Kolbe index, the Kolbe A index, which is an index that identifies your striving instincts. It's how you take action. It's separate from what your personality, your social style is.
Mhm.
So I took this assessment, and what I discovered is that on the what's called the implementer, it's how hands-on you are. I am not. I'm a 3 on a scale of 1 to 10. And so I'm someone who envisions. I'm very big picture oriented. I can see it in my mind's eye, but I only have so much hands on energy. And here I was trying to do a hands on work for 8 hours a day. I can do 2 massages great, but after that, I lose the mental energy to stay engaged. So that was life changing for me. And I realized that given my instinctive strengths, which is my ability to systematize, to create order, to develop, and my quick start energy, which is dealing with change and risk, that I was much
Mhm.
more suited in the business world. So back to having my own business and helping clients, in a range of things from management to information technology, operations. And then my love for helping people understand their true strengths really kicked
Mhm.
into gear.
So you got tremendous benefit from that insight, and then you became certified in Colby yourself. Yes.
Yes, I did. After I had formed Zoom Strategies, which is my strategy firm, I had to created that with a business partner, Dave Moyer, and we were trying to come up with a name. At the time, I was married and my name was Zader with a Z. So we came up with the word Zoom. He was Moyer with an M, Z. So Zoom Strategies was born, and we worked together for several years until one of our clients hired him as the CEO. And then I stayed with Zoom Strategies doing marketing strategies. Then it turned into web development. Um, so it really was a lot of fun. And that's how I ultimately ended up meeting Bob Berg.
Bob Burg. Now, there's a name that you and I share a love for, and most of our listeners know Bob. Bob is the co-author of the Gogiver series, along with John David Mann, and you now are his right hand, if you will. And as he puts it, so again, speaking of aging ourselves a bit. Um, Tell us about the Get Smart television program and how that's become an integral part of your life.
Well, a few years into working with Bob, he started out as my client, and then I pretty much grew to where I was running the business for him so that he can focus on what he does great. And you had such a fabulous interview with Bob several many podcast episodes ago, which
Yeah.
was great. Um, so he loves the Get Smart from the 1960s. And so he started referring to me as Agent 99 to his Maxwell Smart. And while it's not true, he used to say, he says that it's, I'm the one that makes it all happen and he gets all the credit. It truly is, a partnership. We both leverage one another's strengths. So he focuses on speaking and writing, and I handle making everything happen, developing the programs and the services that we offer, like the Gogiver Success Alliance that we have, the mentorship community.
Let's talk about that in just a second, but I do want to just clarify. So the program Get Smart was a comedy series, and the main character's name was Maxwell Smart, and he was a stumbling, bumbling caricature of a 007 type character.
Right.
And he was, I think, Agent 86, but the agent who really was the smart one and kept things together was Agent 99. So that's why Bob is very humble and quick to kind of position himself as the stumbling, bumbling, I don't know how to do anything, Maxwell Smart, and with Kathy holding things together. But what's important is that's humorous, and it certainly works. And Bob drops it in. He said, "Yeah, I'll have 99 do that." So it's really become part of their culture. But the important thing I want to make obvious here is what you just said, how complementary you both are to each other. Your strengths help to support where he's either not as strong or not as interested, and vice versa. He has a whole complement of talent that he brings out and helps drive you and teach you as well. So the two of you work so well together. It's really cool. And one of those things that you have developed together is the Gogiver Success Alliance. Explain more about that, please.
Yes, it is a mentorship community. It actually, from our period of COVID, the lockdown, we all realized everybody was working from home. We've been working from home for ages, that Bob and I in our respective homes, but we realized how important it was to bring that community together. So we had started in 2020 with our Gogiver Entrepreneurs Group, just meeting on Fridays, and everybody was really enjoying and getting value out of having these weekly conversations. So we decided that we should really formalize it and create a program. So that was the Gogiver Success Alliance mentorship community. Obviously, Bob is our Pindar. He's the ultimate mentor. But what's so beautiful is everyone in the group is a mentor. They're each bringing their own wisdom, their skills, and their talents. And every Wednesday we have a live Zoom. We get on the call, and whatever members want to talk about, and it ranges the gamut. I feel like every week I learn something so new. It makes me think deeper about topics. And it's really about building this community. So it's not just the Wednesday Zoom. We have our own platform. It's not a Facebook group. We use the Mighty Networks platform. We've created the Gogiver community. So we have our own social networking. And we have the group, the Success Alliance within that, so everybody can connect. And we do something every day of the week. We have a weekly challenge. We focus on appreciation. We have a member spotlight. So there's a lot to it, and everything is focused on how do we build these relationships? How do we give value to one another and support each other's growth and success?
Yeah, and being a part of that, I can testify to how powerful it is. And anyone that is successful and anyone that's striving to become more successful will appreciate the concept of remain teachable. And getting involved in this community, we learn so much from so many people because of different perspectives and different experience. It's really terrific. But what's really important to point out is how actively involved both Kathy and Bob are. This isn't, we're all friends of Bob, so let's get together and talk about the book. It's Bob's in the middle of it. He's driving conversation. He's involved in explaining or bringing the Go-Giver perspective to any number of industries. Kathy is in there bringing her skill to the table. and it's really a powerful thing. The Gogiver Success Alliance.com is where you want to go to find out more about that. That'll be in the show notes, of course. But there's so much more that you have going on with the Gogiver. What do you do in person?
Right. Well, thank you. Well, first, I want to say, you are such a valued member of the Gogiver Success Alliance, Bill. Thank you for being a part of it. I love the interaction, but my true passion is our in-person events. I feel like there's nothing like the magic of when you're in person really working with people. And we have what we call the Gogiver Entrepreneurs Academy beyond the mastermind event. So it used to be where it was a lot more in-person teaching when we were doing it. But what we found now that we have an online course that captures all of Bob's wisdom around the Gogiver and endless referrals, that the participants get beforehand, but we focus in those 2 days. We come together, and each person, we spend an hour just focused on their business. What are their challenges or opportunities that they're really wanting a mastermind, input to really help them see it from all angles and think about different strategies. And it is just a blast. I just love the creativity that comes out of it, but the friendships, the relationships that are formed it's truly a fabulous time.
Do you have one coming up in the near future?
We do. We have two actually scheduled. We have one in October. It's October 24th through the 26th. We start on a Sunday night. We have a get together and a dinner so everyone can get to know each other. So that way on Monday morning, we start right out of the gate, and it's all day Monday and Tuesday. And then we have another one scheduled for January 16th through the 18th. And both are held in beautiful Jupiter, Florida, in Bob's not in his true backyard, but in his
not literally.
Right. No, we're at the gorgeous Wyndham Grand Jupiter Hotel. We just had our first event there in August, and it was phenomenal. I don't know. We'll be going many other places.
Well, it certainly is convenient for Bob, and as well it should be. He's done, gosh knows, more than his share of travel in his career. But if you have to go someplace, Jupiter, Florida is a pretty cool place to go.
Yes,
and it is easy to get to. I know for a fact I've got a conflict with the first one, but I'm going to certainly look to see and strive to get to the one in January, because they are powerful. And anyone listening that wants to improve their business, this is a really, this will do that for you. The connections and the insight and the support and the friendship on a professional basis and on a personal basis will blow you away. We'll come back to the Gogiver. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Kathy.
If I can add, the other thing that I think it is unique is it's sort of a total immersion into the 5 laws, living them. Everything we do within the event is focused on applying those laws together. So I think that's one thing that makes it truly unique. And in addition to the sessions where we're focused on each business, we have some exercises we do as a group to really help everyone go even deeper in the application of the 5 laws.
Yeah, and I guess that's important. When I'm speaking with you, I get kind of presumptive that everyone in the world understands the Gogiver, and that's believe it or not the case.
I know they shouldn't they?
It's if you've not read the Gogiver yet, shame on you. No, if you've not read the Gogiver yet, I urge you to do that. And those of you on YouTube, I'm holding up a copy of it so you can see exactly what it looks like. But the 5 laws are the law of value.
The law of compensation. Do you want me to state what the laws are?
Yeah, I thought we'd kind of tandem it, but yeah, you should state them, please. The law of value.
The law of value is that your true worth is determined how much more you give in value than you take in payment.
Right.
Then you have the law of compensation, and that is that your income is determined by how many people you serve and how well you serve them. Then there's the law of influence, that your influence is determined by how abundantly you place other people's interest first.
Mm-hmm.
That's a powerful one, but I always like to state this is not about being someone's doormat or being sacrificial in any way. It presupposes that you have taken care of yourself and you are at a place where you can give of your gifts, and put your focus on the other person. Then we have, I can't really say it's my favorite, but maybe it's been the most impactful for me, is the law of authenticity. And that is that your most valuable gift you have to offer is yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, it really starts there. We really, and Bill, I know you do the extended disc. The more we are aware and understand about ourselves, the more
Mm-hmm.
that we can share our gifts with the world. And I truly believe that we each have something unique, sort of a basket. I don't think it's one thing that we are here to share. And without that, the world isn't the same. So I really love, like you said, you're helping people with their purpose. And I totally get that. And that's part of what I like to help, is to create the environment where people can thrive and truly be their authentic essence. And then the
Right.
last law, the law of receptivity, is that the key to effective giving is to stay open to receiving. So,
And that, in my experience, is typically the most difficult that I find people struggle with, because they have um, such conditioning that getting anything, receiving anything is like getting handouts. So there's so much more to learn about the Go-Giver, and we won't get into it here. You can certainly feel free to go back, as Kathy said, in my list of episodes, and I have a very thorough discussion with Bob. You can also find all the information you want about the Go-Giver at thegogiver.com. And if you want to find out more about Bob, it's real simple: Burg, B-U-R-G, Burg.com. But all of those laws together are not just fabulous business applications. They apply to life in total, in any and every aspect. You made the comment, Kathy, about the Go-Giver isn't about being a doormat. It's not about donating to charity. It's not about dropping money in the Salvation Army bucket at the holidays coming up. What it's about is knowing who we are, knowing what our value is, and finding out what people need. And if our value fills that need, then it's perfect.
mhm.
And that's what we look to do. We look to say, here's what we provide, and is this what you're looking for? It's really that simple. It's not, here, let me do anything for you. It's not, I'm going to go and wash your car. but it's a matter of focusing on what other people need, and then assessing whether what we have to offer fills that need. Um, and as Bob will always say, that creates the environment for a sale to occur, because we don't make sales.
Beautifully said, Bill.
Thanks. See, I pay attention sometimes. I was going to jump quickly to some of your adventure, and I want to talk to you about your travels and such, but I also want to talk to you about, again, we've talked a little bit about understanding ourselves and taking care of ourselves. And the more we know ourselves, the better we are for ourselves and others. But one of the things that you have taken in, and I'm going to try to pronounce this correctly, is
Mhm.
Qigong. Did I even come
Qigong.
close to saying? Go say again.
Qigong. Qigong.
Qigong. Qigong.
Qigong. Mhm.
Okay.
Yes.
Now that I've butchered the pronunciation and you said it correctly, explain to me and everyone else listening what that is, and why you're so passionate about it.
Qigong is the cultivation of our own energy. I got interested. You remember I had wanted to be a doctor a long time ago,
Mm-hmm.
and I won't go through
Right.
all the iterations, but I went through, like, every 10 years, I thought I would go back to be a different type of doctor. At one point, a naturopath. And then in 2009, I actually thought I was going to go back to traditional Chinese medicine school. And I came across a book by a Dr. Nan Lu, and it basically changed everything. And I ended up going to learn and study with him on my spare time, I ended up not going back to traditional Chinese medicine school. But I have studied since 2009 Qigong. It's my daily practice. It's how I maintain and cultivate my own energy so that I can bring my best self to my work and to help others do the same. So in Chinese culture, in the medicine, basically Qigong is the grandfather of all martial arts. It starts with
Okay.
one's own energy cultivation. So it's just a series either of movements or postures that work with our meridian system to raise our energy vibration and clear out stagnant energy. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes a ton of sense. I don't understand the specifics of it, nor should I, being just now hearing about it for, what little I've read about it.
Mhm.
But uh, the important thing is to understand that there's always something else out there. Qigong,
Mhm.
getting closer.
Very good.
Um, kind of setting
Yeah.
the stage for so many other martial arts, all of which are about self-improvement to begin with. I mean, we see all the
Mhm.
movies and the TV shows where it's people learn martial arts so that they can attack and that kind of thing. But in reality, I think the at the heart of most of those is getting more in touch with self, and that
Yeah.
fits in perfectly with what we're doing. So is your
Mhm.
practice a combination of meditation? Tell me more about the movements and
Mhm.
clearly it's not something you just say, "Oh, I'm going to start doing this, and tomorrow morning it'll be great, and I'll do it."
Well,
Explain it a bit more.
sure. Everything can start, it's just learning some basic movements and postures. Like one thing I am certified to teach the Dragon's Way, which is a series of 10 movements and postures designed to balance and harmonize your energy. So it's
Okay.
a wonderful routine that people can learn and do. And there's just some basic movements. It's not like exercise because you're not exercising your muscles. You're really stretching the meridian system. And meridians are simply, in traditional Chinese medicine, they're the energy pathways that go through our body. And each channel has a different function that it does. And I won't go into that could be a whole topic in itself, but
Yeah.
it's just to understand that we have a connection with the energy field and we need to maintain that open channel. Like in traditional Chinese medicine, pain is viewed as simply a blockage of energy flow. If you got a pain in your back, that means something is blocking the free flow of energy. And there are movements you can do that can help open up that energy flow. And that's what acupuncture is. That is specific points along meridians that are stimulated that can either make more energy flow, or maybe you've got too much energy flowing and it can, decrease that flow.
Well, I find the whole subject fascinating,
Hmm.
and it's important, I think, to not discount that type of approach to health,
Hmm.
to physical and mental improvement, because it's been around for thousands and thousands of years for a reason. Here in the States, we get very indoctrinated quickly to uh, pharmaceutical solutions, which typically might treat symptoms rather than cause. And I certainly appreciate the medical field and what they do. However, I also believe that there's more to it than just what we are fed. That there's more pills you can take or some type of pharmaceutical response. And there's a few guests I've had on the show that speak to that as well. Um, so I think it's important to embrace that, and that what you've talked about is it's another act of receiving, right? Am I
Yes.
am I right in that?
Yes, yes, yes. In traditional Chinese medicine and Taoism, it's yin and the yang is the basis of life. That flow. The Tai Chi symbol, the black and the white, but there's that little dot of white in the black, that everything forms and completes the whole. And that was one thing that had attracted me to traditional Chinese medicine, and it is my main form of self-care, is the holistic approach, the understanding of mind, body, spirit, that you can't separate them, and the importance of understanding our emotions. Emotions are simply energy in motion, and all of that ties together in who we are as a being and how we're experiencing our life. So Western medicine definitely has a place, and so does Eastern. And I feel like it's integrating things and finding things that work for us. Not everything, everyone is different. And I do believe we're all on our own path to learn and grow, how we're meant to in this lifetime.
And that's so very well said, Kathy. And that again alludes to why I do this show. So your approach and your journey, as I knew it would be, exactly exemplifies what I try to get people to understand, that as long as we are pursuing our purpose, first of all, we don't have a singular purpose.
Right.
Secondly, our purpose will evolve. Sometimes it will change, but there's always moving forward, and there's always the opportunity and the need for clarification, which allows us to improve and hone in better on not only what we're trying to do, but what's fulfilling us as humans. And the more we are fulfilled within ourselves, the more your not favorite, quote unquote, air quotes, the law of authenticity becomes that much more important, because the more we're comfortable with ourselves, who we are, and we know what we do well, and we know what we don't do well, and we know our strengths and we know our weaknesses, and we're okay with it as is, working to improve that, the better off we're all going to be, I believe. So let me ask something you may not. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, so true and so well said, Bill. And I love
Thank
your
you.
show, how you really get to the salient points of, what's important in life. So thank you for being so good at summarizing things.
Well, thanks. It's been, again, speaking of learning as we go, it's something that I've been able to hone through a lot of years. So when you talk about aging or dating yourself here, you youngster, uh, I'm going to ask you something that you may not have been asked before, and it's going to come, as Bob would say, it's something out of left field. Uh,
Okay.
how do you see the principles of uh, Qigong and the philosophy of the Gogiver intertwining and complementing each other?
That is a great question. Actually, one I have thought a lot about, and I've talked with some of my friends, because in traditional Chinese medicine, there is the 5-element framework. So there are 5 main organ systems that basically control everything. And I've looked at how to map those are the 5 laws of the Go-Giver. How does that flow into the energy principles? And it does. And it's the idea that everything is interconnected, and how Bob always says the 5 laws have to work interdependently. You can't just do one law. I mean, you can, but it's not going to work. But they together work, because it is all about the energy that is underlying. It's not a bunch of techniques. It truly is a way of being, when you are first focused on giving value. And it is not just what you do, but it's really how you do what you do. Like, I'm really becoming to realize how much more important the state of consciousness, almost our energy level that we bring to what we do. Because over our life, and Bill, you may have experienced this, and as you've seen, I've done a lot of different things. I haven't just had one career path. So we're going to do our purpose. There may be a lot of different what's, but it's really who we are being when we're doing what it is we're doing. And that's what I'm really focused on cultivating in myself. What are those higher essences that I'm wanting to embody and to share in the work that I do and whatever I do in my life? I don't know if I answered the question.
You did very well. Yeah, I'm very impressed. The concept of what you and what that your journey exemplifies very simply is I talk about the purpose principle. And for me,
Mhm.
it does start with knowing your purpose. Simon Sinek calls it know your why.
Mhm.
But when I hear people say, if you just follow your passion, you'll never work a day in your life. And I call bull on that
Mhm.
because passion will fade without a purpose. It's got to start with a purpose. And finding that purpose will trigger our passion. And then the passion fuels our journey. So as you would go pursue your purpose,
Mhm.
um, that excited your passion. But the more you got into it and found out, yeah, this isn't exactly what I want to do, you had to adjust your purpose, not your passion. You had to adjust your purpose.
Mhm.
And the third part of my purpose principle is persistence, and you certainly exemplify that. Um, so I appreciate very much your time. I know that we're on a limited time frame. I know you have a hard stop coming up in just a few minutes, and I will absolutely respect that. However, I must ask you one more question.
Okay.
Uh, Actually, two.
All right.
I'm gonna go to two. Let me go to one that I just thought of. I understand that some of your first mentorship had to do with someone that a lot of our listeners have heard of, and that's Cindy Crawford. When you were at university together, um, how did you help guide Cindy Crawford on her life journey?
Oh my gosh, I can't believe. Did Bob say something about that? I
No,
met.
Cindy Crawford called me and
Yeah.
said, "I hear you're going to speak to Kathy. She helped me so much." Yes, I heard from Bob.
Oh my gosh, I cannot believe that. Well, Cindy Crawford was somebody. She was the sister of one of my best friends. They were best friends, and Cindy Crawford was at Northwestern University. She was a couple years um, after me, and I was in what was called the Technological Institute studying electrical engineering, and Cindy Crawford was actually studying chemical engineering, and she wanted someone to talk with, and so I was like, sure. So we had a conversation, and she was like, okay, I'm in my freshman year, but I've got this opportunity to go do modeling in Italy. Should i should i stop my education to go model? And I this is a joke. My mentor, I was just this conversation saying, well, if I was you, I would go do the modeling and experience that, because I could always come back to doing chemical engineering, and just experience life. Well, anybody who knows Cindy Crawford knows what Cindy Crawford did, but and I doubt I was the
Well,
person that impacted that. But that was my one brush with somebody really famous before they were famous.
well, tens of millions of men applaud you for giving that advice, whether it was the driving factor or whether it's just one more seed planted.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think she has been relatively successful on that path. Now, the question I was going to ask you, the
Mhm.
question that I ask everyone, we've talked about your start from
Mhm.
high school on. We've talked about your journey of uh, moving along your path and ending up from your initial thought of being a medical doctor to now being such an integral part of the whole Gogiver worldwide movement. When you put that all together, what's the point?
Great question. I love that. So, what is the point? Hindsight's 2020. So I can look back, and for
Mhm.
me, the point is, it's about trying. For me, trying whatever to grow from the experience. That we grow through what we go through, and while things may not have worked out the way I had wanted them to, each experience has built and become who I am today, and to understand that it is a journey, and don't get too caught up on the destination, because there's going to be many destination points along the journey, but who are you becoming along your journey? What are your gifts? Discovering what those gifts are and sharing them will be what will give you the most joy and fulfillment.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Yes. And once again, you've hit the nail on the head from my perspective, which is, we understand what's the point oftentimes by looking backwards. as opposed to finding it out exclusively by looking forward. So that's more great insight. And we grow through what we go through. Another powerful statement. Kathy, thank you so much for your time. I know you've got to run. I appreciate your experience and your wisdom and your humor and your willingness and ability to always be there whenever anybody needs anything. How you do that, I don't know, but I do appreciate it very much. You're a special person, and I'm grateful to have you as my guest.
Thank you, Bill. It's such an honor to be. You're a wonderful host, and we're so honored that you're one of our certified Gogiver speakers and coaches. So thank you for all you do to share the Gogiver message and to live. You truly embody it. And so does your brilliant and beautiful wife, Tara. So maybe the two of you can join us in January.
Well, I guess we'll hopefully do that. So we'll leave it there. And I'll say once again, thank you so much for your time and your wisdom.
Thank you, Bill.
Bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks so much for tuning in. And if you like what you heard, please subscribe so you don't miss an episode. We can promise you'll gain value in every one. Rating and reviewing makes us more discoverable and helps others find out what's the point. And if you'd like to know more about Bill Ellis or contact him, please visit his website, www.brandingpillars.com. See you next time.